What up, witches, and welcome to Witchin and Bitchin, a podcast. I'm your host, Darren.
And I'm Vicky. How are you all today? I hope you're doing very, very well, because I'm excited because we've got a guest.
You're always excited when we have guests.
I know, I am.
I'm waiting for the day when you say I'm bummed because we have a guest.
I hope that's not today.
No, it won't be. It won't be
at all. Not at all.
So let's introduce our guest. So as one of the founders and owner of Elfhame, Rion has been a practicing witch for many years with keen interest in all aspects of traditional witchcraft and anything to do with herbs. Rion has his eyes set on providing the largest herbal collection Australia has ever seen. Magically, he began his witchy path at the age of 13, stealing his mum's herbs and spices from the kitchen. Sounds like we're talking about KFC now. Now I'm hungry. And over the years, belonging to several practicing groups and covens, exploring many paths and traditions until he found traditional witchcraft. In Ryan's mundane life, his background is in the beauty industry, and previously the owner of 3 hair and beauty salons. These days, he works towards growing a magical life while teaching a few days a week. So everyone, please welcome Rion Kallady.
Yay!
Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Thank you so much for coming on.
I was going to say, now I understand why your hair is always on fleek.
It's a baby sacrifice to the gods and a shitload of hairspray.
I love that, a baby sacrifice to the gods. I mean, yeah, anyway. But no, honestly, thank you so much for joining us. Because this has been a long time coming, though, because for those who know me and have watched the show for a while now, I'm very shamelessly plugging Elfhame all the time. Because everybody knows
that every time.
Because everybody knows that I love, I mean, not that I get to come up that often, but whenever I do get a chance, I like to come up and visit you guys up in the Dandenongs, because it's just so beautiful to go up there. But so I'm so glad that we got to have you on the show finally. Yay.
Good.
And I just sit here being super jealous every time sitting in Adelaide, not getting to have a look.
And every time I go, I take photos and I send them to Vicky.
He does. He takes the photos.
You'll visit one day. You'll get.
I know. Once I get these borders done, I know. I want to live there. I'm already looking behind you, and I'm like, oh, I want to live there. But we'll get to that one soon. So I wanted to start off with how we often start, because the whole reason with the podcast is that we want to show that there's more than one way to be a witch. So with that in mind, what's your personal definition of a modern day witch?
So I have been, this is a very rounded question, I feel. I personally don't think that I should be the one telling anybody what I think the definition of a witch is.
Yes.
I have seen many, many different conversations and heated debates online, and been a part of them like face to face as well. So I definitely know not to say that this is a witch and this isn't a witch, and that's considered witchcraft and this isn't considered witchcraft. But for me personally, calling myself a witch, I believe for me that a witch is somebody who aligns themselves with nature, with spirit of place, working with spirits, whether you call it a ancestor, a god or a goddess, or genius loci, so spirit of place. And essentially your practice is working with the land, being able to raise, direct, and send energy to aid your will and. So I feel that a witch is essentially all of that. Somebody who is wise, so learning from themselves, accepts some full authentic self. So working with not just the things that you like about yourself, but also the things that you don't like about yourself. So
very important.
That is very, very important. But essentially, like for me, so a witch is somebody who does all of that.
No, that's perfect. And I loved how you mentioned at the beginning as well about that it is such a debate, that there is such this huge debate around it, which is one of the reasons why we wanted to have people just have their own personal opinions about what it is for them, and see, then we can start to see that there's a lot of similarities, or there's some differences, and that might be differences in different paths and things like that. So
and I'm pretty sure like it was one of the reasons why we birthed this podcast.
And
every time we have a different guest, I've noticed that my own definition evolves and changes over time too, because I'm like, ooh, I really like how they incorporate that aspect. I might incorporate that too. And you know what I mean? Because that's the beauty of having a non-dogmatic practice is like we don't have anyone dictating what that looks like, so we can make it whatever we want it to look like, really.
I think because it is so interpersonal as well, but for me, my craft is who I am. It's not, I'm not me, then I practice witchcraft. Witchcraft is a part of me, a part of my life, and has been and will always be a part of me. It's different for everybody. Everybody's practice is different. I have a lot of conversations with people about casting spells, and I need to know how to do this spell, and I have to tell them that everybody does it differently, and there's a million different ways of doing things. In the end, it's like if me and Darryn, if Vicky, you taught us to draw a house, we would both draw it very, very differently, but at the end would have a picture of a house.
We'll draw it better.
That's right.
I can't draw the same much.
No, neither can I. Mine would be a square with a triangle on the top.
And a little cloud.
Yeah. Bit of extra finesse.
Yeah.
No, I love that.
But that's so true that it's all different perspectives, and it really is about that personal gnosis and that personal aspect to it, and really remembering that it's not separate. I love how you mentioned that as well, that it's not, it's who you are.
Oh, wait, hang on. Let me put my witch hat on. Okay.
Yeah, because sometimes it can be like that.
Yeah.
Some people could have that a little bit. And with that sort of in mind, then, do you actually use the term witch to describe yourself, or do you use any other terms or anything like that?
I think the main term that I would use would be witch. I have, obviously having a business, I have many, many different types of people and traditions and backgrounds and cultures come in calling themselves everything from witch to ceremonial magician to sorceress and all of the above. I identify as a witch. If somebody asks me how I would describe my practice, then it might be a little bit different. But I find if you're talking to just say a friend at a party and they ask you, are you a witch? It's easy to say yes than say I'm a ceremonial magician and have to go through and explain everything that entails. Every
single sort of title or whatever it is.
And is that something that's evolved over time? Do you used to, because obviously I'm talking because you've been into witchcraft for such a long time now. And I remember during the 90s, obviously there's that massive thing of being a white witch, and there was all these other extra labels that we had to slop onto the before or after just to quantify that to the public.
Yeah, or what type of witch you were. Or
like a green witch or a hedge witch or a whatever. Is it something that's evolved or?
Yes and no. I come from, same as a lot of people, from a Catholic background. So for my parents, I am a white witch and have always been a white witch. Me, I don't believe that there is your light and dark. I believe that witchcraft is all about balance and nature, and nature has balance. So there's always that balance between light and dark, and I think those two aspects don't necessarily mean light in terms of good energy and good work, and dark in terms of evil sort of stuff or baneful stuff. There's an amount of there's a huge amount of amazing stuff in the shadow that you can do and can do that is good. Learning to accept that sort of process. But for me, just the simple term, which is, I think, the easiest thing, I don't think that the term has evolved over time. It's more about my practice that has evolved, and having that confidence in myself rather than changing my name.
I think that's awesome. And I know we've kind of touched on it a little bit with some of the intro as well as some of what you just said now. So what is your origin story? So obviously you mentioned in the bio that obviously stealing your mum's herbs and spices from the cupboard. But how did you how did Rye get to here today? So where did it all start from? If you recall?
It is unbelievably corny, but I have always had that fascination in your Lord of the Rings and the craft and Charmed and practical magic. So I think that side of things obviously had my interest. I still love like Lord of the Rings and Stargate and those sort of shows.
Too.
I feel like if you don't,
Speaking my language.
Yeah, right?
But in terms of the interest in witchcraft, it was roughly when I was like around like your early teens. So I think like your 12, 13 mark is when I actually made that connection of actually putting spells together or making charm bags or honouring nature and working with nature.
Yeah.
So for me, it has evolved from watching and like reading about mythology and history and all the fantasy sort of stuff from TV. But then that sort of interest then evolved into having a practice. And then obviously being able to distinguish what is fantasy to real life. I have heaps of friends that kind of expect me to be able to squint my eyes or move my hands and people fly across the room. Only happens when I'm very, very angry.
If only.
That's it.
But I've always loved the mixing aspect of things like what you said, Darren, with my mum pinching the herbs from my mum's cooking cupboard. I actually got grounded for 2 weeks for that.
Did you?
I did. She found them under my bed.
Well, see, there's far worse things that can be found underneath beds than herbs and spices.
So you know what I want to know is I wonder what she was thinking.
Yeah.
Like, is he cooking like a stroganoff? Like, what is he doing?
It was like Catholic family, go to church every Sunday. So very, very like religious based. So under my bed, I had them essentially like just in a little bag. I got a little scrapbook from the newsagents that time and had my book of shadows. So she would have put two and two together. Eventually she found out. So she thinks I'm a white witch, and my dad does as well, which is fine for them because I think they are completely fine with doing nice and loving things, but don't really understand the whole shadow self and shadow work and working without actually aligning with being evil or working with the devil.
Oh, they're such good little Catholics.
Oh boy, you should have seen their faces the first time I walked into the store.
I was about to say, like, how did they take it all to be?
Absolutely fine. Like my parents are like 100% supportive in anything that we do, as long as it's not illegal.
Yeah. It's always a good stipulation.
But they walked in. They came here on the open weekend that we had. I don't know, Darren, if you that weekend.
I don't remember, to be honest. How long ago was it now?
Over 3 years ago.
I think because I think the first time I set foot was literally 3 years ago the other day. Because I put that post up because I was like, oh my god, I'm finally here! Woohoo! Yeah. And
they walked in, had big-eyed, quite a few questions, which is like it is fantastic. Questions are always great. Stayed for about an hour and then left. I had my nephew running around, so I had to chase him. So they're good.
That's awesome.
I think it's a very standard. From what I've seen, every time I go to Elfhame, I mean, there's always the thing I love about your stories. There's always, I don't know how to describe this. So I've been to many a witch store. In fact, every time we used to travel, when we could travel, I would always look up metaphysical supply store on Google. And I always had to go to them all. And I would message people that I knew in that area to say, hey, are there any witchy stores? And like, you can see that I could almost subcategorize all the witchy stores into different things. And for me, Elfhame is like, this is like serious. Like, Elfhame is like the real deal. It's not like you're not going in there to pick up some like watered down, very pretty little thing that everyone can do a spell kind of thing. No, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. But for me, Elfhame, when you walk in there, it's like that it's like legit.
Yeah.
And like especially when the first time I walked in and there's like a skull, like an animal skull, and lots of other animal products and stuff like that all around. And I think I've even been there where I've been standing there talking to you and someone's walked in, go, whoop, nope, and then turn around and walked out.
Yeah. That happens probably once or twice a month.
Really?
I find it quite funny And sometimes you get them because Vicky, our door is just a wood frame with clear glass in the middle. So you can see outside, and every now and then you'll see like a whole group of people kind of like standing back, like trying to look in. Like, let it come in.
It's okay.
The lolly shop, it's
it's actually hilarious, and because the culture of going to the Dandenongs is very much about like you go up there for lunch or for Devonshire tea, you park your car somewhere, and then you wander around and look at all the little knick-knack stores and everything up in the Dandenongs.
Yes, it's a bit like us in the hills.
You see the tourists are like walking around. They're like, "Oh, what's this?" And whoa, like, you know what I mean? I just laugh because it's so funny. I love being in there when they do it because I'm like, oh my God, muggles.
I had a husband and wife standing outside one day, and they would have been probably like late 80s, like they were old. And they stayed outside for about 2 minutes, and the husband sort of walked in a bit hunched over and had a piece of paper in his hand. And he walked up to me, and I was in the corner. And he's like, I just wanted to give you this. This is a pamphlet from our church. We accept everybody. I'm like, you're so cute, but thank you, I'm fine.
He must have mustered up all his courage too to come in as well.
I'm fine with that. Like, as long as they're happy and like just not being dickheads, then
that's
come in, have a look around, and
that's awesome. So then talking about that origin story then, and we even mentioned in the bio about a few different, like obviously you practice what we call traditional witchcraft, and you said you've been involved in some covenant group work and stuff like that. So are there particular, because I know that with myself, I was brought up Catholic, started off with Wicca because it was like the most accessible. And then from there, I don't even know what I call my practice these days, like eclectic mysticism, if I was to really give it a label. But like I've dabbled in everything from shamanic based practices to something a little bit more, I don't even know what you would call it. Like I've dabbled in like the Eastern philosophies, all that kind of stuff, and they all intermingle and kind of taken on bits that I like. Yeah. So what did your journey kind of look like with the different paths and traditions that you studied or went through?
So my very first book that I ever purchased, I was so happy, and I still have it at home. It's called Wicca for Men. I cannot remember who wrote it. I've only seen it for sale once, and I think I bought it from Dimmicks when I was about 10. So my practice started off with me and my friends at school getting together, working in a coven and celebrating the different days and casting spells and working with the full moon and that sort of thing. So at that stage, I didn't necessarily call myself Wiccan, but at that time, everybody who was a practicing witch was a Wiccan. It wasn't until a little bit later that the clarification came out about traditional Wicca and what I neo-pagan now. So I was very eclectic at the start, was trying to figure out which god and goddess to work with. For me personally, I've never necessarily connected with specific gods or goddesses. And after not really connecting too much and trying to work with Hecate and all of the gods and goddesses, it's too hard to name. Not really feeling that connection, I moved from that and I found Raven Gramassi's Book of Italian Witchcraft, his Hereditary Witchcraft. I think I'm going to cough.
You're fine.
I'm slowly going to die. So read that, and they had that practice with Diana and Dionysus, so god and goddess, but then also had that separate practice with working with your ancestral spirits and spirits of the family. And that's when I first came into contact with ancestral worship. So sort of moved away from god and goddess work to ancestral work. And then from there felt an amazing amount of love and connection with my practice. I personally love with spell work getting in there and getting down and dirty and doing the work. For me, if you're digging a hole in a spell, beautiful. Where if you're just sitting there like trying to move a bit of dirt around, I personally don't find that very powerful. Somebody else, just not me. But But after that, having that connection, and then from that ancestral worship, I did find a few paths to traditional British Wicca. And then from there went to your traditional witchcraft, which is where I found my practice sits.
Yeah.
So with your traditional witchcraft, I have a lot of folklore and spirit of place and chthonic work in my practice. I do have a bit of influence with Cornish witchcraft as well. And yeah, so that's my traditional witchcraft sort of story.
Beautiful.
These days, I told for the audience who's listening, before we started recording, had a bit of a chat with these guys and had a little bit of a chat. I told them that I am like a split personality in my head. So
don't we all?
One personality is my traditional witchcraft side. So with that, still continue to work with my ancestors. I do have a kind of like your initial ancestor, initial witch, who is, I kind of view them as like good, bad, light, dark, male, female. Kind of, for me, they sit there as not mighty dead, but sort of between there and being a deity. So I work with them during different seasons of the year, call upon them, they help me, they guide me. With that side of things, they have been one of my my best teachers in the craft as well. Times where I don't feel like I know my craft, and they kind of give me a slap across the back of the head and pull me back into rein.
That's it.
Yeah. So that's my traditional witchcraft side.
Love
Beautiful.
It. That's good. And what would you say are the biggest differences, I guess, between traditional witchcraft and say, because I know there's often a lot of confusion in when people say traditional witchcraft, because sometimes it can get confused with British traditional witchcraft, Wicca. And so, what would you say are, like, I guess, the main differences? I know you mentioned a lot of them then when you were just talking about it, but the elevator pitch, I guess.
No, that's okay. So for me, just also putting out there that I'm not an initiate into traditional British witchcraft. So this is just what I have gone through with a little bit of research, speaking with friends and stuff as well. So for me, we have a huge umbrella that different practices and traditions fall under. So for me, traditional witchcraft is completely different with different areas and different people. So it's based off the land you're working from, the chthonic energies in the land, but also folklore from that area as well. So for me, there are a lot of traditional witches who do work with gods and goddesses, but a lot of them do work with spirits as well. Where with my interpretation of traditional British witchcraft, so that is where your Alexandrian and your Gardnerian traditions fall into place. So they are your initiatory traditions, so you can't practice those two without being initiated, where there's that bit of separate where your Wicca or your neo-pagan comes in, where that falls into your Dianic, your your Saxon, your Italian, and all of those.
Got the other kind of branches that come off from there now.
So then, I guess, did you find then with given that you've got an Irish background, did you spend any time kind of exploring the Irish pantheon or any of that, like going like part of your journey? Did you start off, or have you done any like ancestral work and tried to resonate with that? Because I know you mentioned that you went into now I've gone like Raven Gramasi's book, which is more about like hereditary witchcraft based on the Italian system, I guess. So did you do any dabbling or work with the Irish pantheons, or?
Not specifically. When I was younger, my personality, I love perfection. If I can't do something really well, I don't like to do it.
I'm not doing it anymore.
And back then, there wasn't a lot of like verbal information out there about how to pronounce different words and different gods and goddesses. So that kind of turned me off a little bit. but I have done a lot of work with because my family roots go through Ireland and through Scotland and through middle of England as well. I've done a lot of work with my ancestral and the spirits that sort of way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's beautiful. And look, I echo that because anyone that's listened to our podcast and has heard us talk about, especially around the Sabbats, when we're trying to pronounce, like I think Lunasar, when we talked about like in the Tuatha De Danann and all of them.
Yeah,
I literally had to sit there listening to YouTube clips of people from Ireland saying the names of all these gods and goddesses, because I'm like, how does that come from those letters?
Like, doesn't make sense.
Then you get it perfect, but then you go away, you fall asleep the next morning, like, damn it, I've lost it again.
It's gone. Yeah, that's it. That's exactly it. It's gone straight away.
And I have a pact now. Whenever there's a Gaelic or Gallic term, I have to say it because she's like, no. I can't do
it. Always learning, always evolving.
That's right. That's exactly it.
But I sometimes like to throw it to her to see if she'll try.
He does it all the time. And then I probably looked a little bit like your parents when they first came in. I have like the deer in the headlight eyes, like, why are you making me say this?
Because it's fun for me.
Yes, I know.
So then, okay, we've kind of talked about your origin and the different parts you've covered and stuff like that. So I guess I'm interested to know, because I know you from Elfhame. That's how I kind of heard about you, and that's how we connected on Facebook and whatnot, because of I think you're involved in an event, and I think Elfhame was sponsoring the event, and then I kind of watched an interview with you, and I'm like, oh, what's this all about? And then I think I reached out to you and then started following the shop and everything like that, and then now you can't get rid of me. So how did Elfhame come about? I'm intrigued.
Yeah.
So let's work that in also with the other split personality side of things. So
yes.
So Elfhame essentially came about one Beltane night in 2010. Me and my friends, we were celebrating after ritual, having laughs and getting a little bit too feisty. I love food. So we were having a bit of a chat, and we were both from a beauty background, and we're currently working with a company that was a lifestyle company. So ensuring that ingredients were sourced from sustainable places, working with communities as well. So we always wanted to have a witchy type of business with that sort of environmental ethic behind it as well. So that's when the whole idea in the business started. That was for us. But for me personally, it was watching the craft, seeing the girls go into the shop and steal stuff.
I was going to say I've always wanted to have that shop.
I sort of like, that's mine. And then just having that idea, having that wanting a witchcraft type of business, and then having that idea of being sustainable and being ethically sourced. And then it essentially just started on me buying things that I wanted. Buying one, I'd buy a few.
Yes.
And then it's just grown from there.
So that's how I can get my purchases.
Yeah.
I can stick them on it. I'm like, hang on, I'm preparing.
Whenever we get like new stock in, because we have about 90% of the stuff is all handmade. Whenever new stock comes in, you look at it and you're like,
go on the shelf or on my shelf.
Or is it worth taking that home with me?
Yes. I think that would just be my everyday dilemma.
Or you buy it on the business account. Take through the business.
It's a business expense.
Look, I personally thank you for opening up the shop. My husband in my bank account probably doesn't thank you for opening up the shop. No, he knows now. If ever I say to him, I'm like, oh, we got nothing on this weekend. Want to go to the Dandenongs? He's like, you just want to go to Elfhame. Like, no.
Yes.
Like, you love Devonshire tea, and I just want to take you out for scones and tea. He goes, you just want to go to Elfhame. I'm like, maybe just a little. He's like, fine. Like, so that's the trade-off. He gets to have scones with tea, and I get to go shopping.
It's a good trade-off.
Yeah.
I mean, I also get the scones and tea, so I think it's perfect. I mean,
I would really love to know where the name came from as well.
So obviously Elfhame is the name. Started off being called Elfhame's Apothecary, but that got way too long, so we just cut it in half.
Yeah.
So Elfhame, for me, the store itself, I want it to be completely separate to every other store that was around at the time. So at the time there was one store in the city, one store in Caulfield, and then there were like your sort of crystal gemstone stores sort of around everywhere.
It's funny because I know which stores you're talking about.
Yeah.
I love witchy businesses. It's fine. So there were those stores, and like I love, like, let's just say Spellbox. I used to love going to Spellbox, saving up my money as a teenager, going in there and
didn't we all?
buying everything that I wanted or I could afford, and then coming home and then using those tools. So obviously I wanted a store that would have that sort of similar excitement for people, but also having that more results-driven sort of product. So instead of having everything as a mass-produced sort of thing, have it as unique and as handmade and handcrafted as possible. That way I can ensure that love has been poured into that product instead of it being made somewhere else, and then just on the shelf and out the door. So for me, Elfhame is all about creating that magic, and having that magical life instead of having on Thursday at 9 o'clock I do my spell. I want every day to be a spell or to be magical for everybody. So Elfhame, for me, the name is a place between the two worlds. So you're mundane and you're magical. It's where spirits live, it's where the fae live. That's what I want to create.
I love that so much.
But the thing is that it resonates so much with what you've done, though, because like I've been there, and like even like I don't even know, I don't think I ever even told you this, right? It's like when I a few years ago went through one of the most, I guess, gut-wrenching or like, you know, really depressing times in my life. I was literally on a downward spiral that I could not control, and I was off work for a number of months, and I just didn't want to get up off the couch. The thing that got me up was, I'm going, you know what, if something's going to get me out of bed, it's going up to the Dandenongs and just going to Elfhame and just being with my people. And I actually drove all the way up there, and that was actually what got me out of the house that day. And that was like the start of me then having a reason to get up again. So I've never actually shared that with you, but I'm happy to share it with everyone on camera now. But yeah, literally, because it's like, you don't go to Elfhame just to buy something. You go there for the experience. Like I'll make a day out of it. I've brought so many of my non-witchy friends to Elfhame, and I almost get like joy watching them walk around and going, what's this doing? Oh my God, did you see that thing? And they're like, you know, I love it when muggles go into a witch store and they're actually inquisitive and they want to touch and smell and feel everything. And it's like, and I'm like, I love popping their cherry, because it's like, yay, who knows? One of them might, and I think even some of my friends bought some stuff that day that I came up recently. When I had some other friends that came in and got some smudge sticks and stuff, which was awesome.
I'm happy we can do that for you. And then that's what we want. We want, like, obviously as a business, we do have to sell things to make money to pay for bills.
Yes, that's right.
But for me, it is more about that experience and having that call.
Well, that's even my uncle. Actually, were you there that day, or was it somebody else was in there? I can't remember. No, I think it was there was a lady who was working that day. But anyway, my uncle said to me, he's like, oh, I really want to get a drum. And I'm like, for what? He goes, like a ritual drum. I'm like, oh, I know exactly where we're going. Like, really? And then we drove up, because we'd driven all the different places of Melbourne, because they just wanted to spend the day going to all the witchy stores with me, which was like ideal for me. Yes. And then when we got to, as soon as he said he wanted a drum, I diverted and went all the way straight up to the Dandenongs, and he bought one that day. I was like, we are not walking out of here without him buying one.
Yeah.
Shout out to my Uncle George. And my auntie said he still walks around the house playing it. Like
does he? Good.
Like he does it, like he's got their own little spiritual room, so they, you know, have it up on the wall in there. But then he walks around and he's like, you know, bashing it and saying all these little chants and stuff to clear out the energy from the rooms and whatever else. I'm like, yes. So good.
See, I love that.
Anyway,
and that's like really attributed though to the space that you've created as well. That's what it sounds like. Like you can even kind of see it. I mean, as jealous as I am, just being able to only see it through photos or little snippet videos and things like that. But you can see that like it's more than just a shop kind of thing. Like it's got all of those elements to it that makes it a lot more than that. That's it.
Oh, trust me, if I could replicate your store in this room, I'd be happy. But okay, then the other thing I want to talk about now, everyone who's watching on YouTube, because some people might be listening to us. So if you haven't been watching, jump over to YouTube and watch the video as well, because behind you, we have this amazing display.
Yes.
And this is only like,
Yes.
that's not even a quarter of the display, I'd say. That's it goes further that way and that way. But,
here you go.
Look at how long this wall is. It's massive. So we have the Alchemy Bar, which is the latest addition to Elfhame. So do you want to tell our listeners / viewers a little bit about the Alchemy Bar and how that came about, what the intention is, all that stuff?
Why I just sit here and swoon for a little bit.
Yeah. You're welcome, Vicky.
Well, so with having a store, obviously, like I love different things. And with myself, I like for my practice, a lot of it is mixing things. Like I love mixing incense and mixing oils and mixing products and just everything. Like if I can chuck a few things together, I love doing it. So when I first opened the store, I did want to have a little witchy table where people could mix things. So making custom oils or making custom sprays or bath salts or whatever type of product a person wants. And it got to the point where I was running out of room on my table. And it just one day like clicked in my head. I'm like, you know what? Fuck the table. I'm going to have a wall. So now I have a wall.
Yes.
But the Alchemy Bar is essentially the idea behind it is having a space where people can come and buy a product specifically for their working or for their life. There's obviously like heaps and heaps of products out there. Everybody makes different types of incense and oils and herbs and powders and stuff. But this is for people with a specific need. So if you have, instead of going out and buying a general love powder, you can come in store and we can sit down with you and guide you on how to make it. And we actually get you to make it and then empower it with all of your emotion, align it with your intent for you to get the best result rather than just buying a general product. They're great, but they're not as good as a personalized product for a result.
And the thing I love about it as well, like if there's even the way I'm thinking about it is sometimes doing spell work or any form of like, especially because now I'm going through the process of doing my witchcraft one with Temple of Witchcraft. I think I even sent you a message and said, these are the things I need to buy. Do you have them? And you're like, I think I have all of them except for maybe one. And it's like, sometimes it can be so hard to find a lot of herbs, especially being on this side of the globe, because a lot of things that these books and what the other traditions look for want is very North American or European centric. And so these herbs are often hard to find. And if you can find them online or whatever, you have to buy like them in bulk. You can't just get like a smidgen. So I think like the way I'm thinking about it as well is like, oh, well, in future, I don't have to then go and source massive bulk amounts. I mean, I do have my own herbs here, but like I can already think of if there's a particular spell in a book that I've read that I really want, I could just come see you guys and say, hey, this is what I want to make up. So rather than buying 50 products, you can just make the little concoction for that specific purpose, which is so good. Like, because that doesn't exist in any other store that I've seen over my years. So I think it's an amazing idea.
For customers coming in, that having that experience, like for me, that experience is obviously having the environment of the store, but then having the knowledge and the trust behind the people behind the counter as well. I've got, I have 4 staff now, and they all have their different practice, but we all have the same sort of alliance with I'm having a mental blank, with the ethos of Elfhame. But they all have their own input to give and their own magic to give, which is what has made the store unbelievably amazing. But having that, it has allowed more people to come in and actually realize that we can do things instead of you having to buy a general product.
Yeah. It kind of gives, especially I would think it'd just be amazing as well, like for people who are just beginning and things like that as well, to really have that confidence to go, oh my gosh, I actually made this myself. So you guys, I think you mentioned, so you guys actually, so if somebody wants a particular one and they actually don't really know what to put in it or what to do, you guys will do like a bit of a consult kind of thing and chat through them.
Yep. So it doesn't matter like what sort of product it is. Like obviously we have a limit of the type of product we can make.
Yeah.
We've got quite an overview, a good range of products we can make. But the whole idea is that you come in with your intention, let us know what the intention is. And then we sit down with you, we make it with you. So take you through the steps on how to mix and blend and then how to use it as well. And like I said before, that is really good for making a product specific to your situation is what you want, because everybody's situation, like spells are that they can quite like general spells are great, but the more specific you can be, the better the result would be as well. And if you're making product that has that alignment to get that result, that for me that is 1,000 times more powerful than buying a general product. But it also goes off like allergy as well. So we have plenty of people coming in who have allergy to nut or allergy to lavender or essential oil.
Oh, of course.
Whatever it is, that can't use a lot of product. So it's good to be able to come in and actually make a product that they can incorporate into their magical life.
Because you know exactly what's in it rather than something off the shelf that you're like, look at the label, like read 50,000 different Latin terms for things and hope to God you know what they mean. Like,
that's it.
And I guess that the other thing that I really love about this whole concept is that, I mean, because I know one of the things that I love about Elfhame and the Alchemy Bar is that everything you guys sell is ethically sourced and sustainable. And it's been like, you know, obviously you do a lot of research and you get things that are handcrafted and you make sure that the supplies of those are also ethically sourced and whatnot. So I guess this ties in a little bit to your concept of witching responsibly.
Yeah. So we have a concept called Witching Responsibly. It is just a term I made up. So essentially that is Elfhame as a whole, making sure that items, especially your animal bones, are sourced ethically. With a lot of people, they are becoming more and more conscious of what they're buying, what they're using. And that doesn't go into animal products, but it also goes into packaging, what's on a label, what's in a product. So moving away from things like your palm oil, your parabens and stuff like that. So with Witching Responsibly, it is our way of being transparent with our customers, making sure that we do have that ethically sourced, that sustainable product, and essentially trying to leave nature and this planet a better place before we die. The amount of people that come in and they don't care about using plastics or they drop rubbish on the floor in the store. For me, a witch is working with nature and worshipping nature, and I don't understand how you could do that but also call yourself a witch and work with energies of nature. Like that just doesn't really work well for me. So as a whole, a lot of all of the products are ethically sourced. The herbs, I wasn't aware that with a lot of like your organic stuff, it's grown organic, but then it's taken off and processed with chemicals once it's got that clarification. So
there you go. I just learned something just then as well. I didn't realize that either.
And that goes for like organic food as well. So figure that out. But a lot of work and research has gone into getting all of the harder to find herbs and the really easy to find herbs, making sure that the source is really good and the quality is good. So herbs, obviously we've got a large range, and resin's got a large range. And another step moving forward was that any sort of plant material that comes into Australia and animal material goes through a radiation treatment. Where ours, we've worked a lot with customs to make sure that they don't. So there's no like medicinal breakdowns in the ingredients and stuff in the herbs. So just that sort of stuff. What else? I'm just trying to think.
I think even also like what I've seen is that with how you package things, when people buy actual product from the store, like how you package things and how you give them to people, like I think from what I've seen anyway, everything is paper that can be recycled or broken down or used for other purposes. Like it's all things that you can repurpose. It's not like tons of plastic packaging and whatnot. So like
single
even
purpose.
just on that level, you're not going to have like, because there's so many times you go somewhere and everything's wrapped in so many layers of plastic that you're like, even if you bought something that's ethically sourced, then all this plastic and chemical that's wrapped around it, you're like,
hang on,
what's the point? You know what I mean?
So we get that a lot. So all of our packaging is either glass or paper, except for our Ziploc bags. So for in-store, we package your herbs in paper because it's quick and easy. But online, because we want to create that experience from in-store to be at home, we actually package them in little plastic Ziploc bags. But the plastic Ziploc bags we actually get from a company in New Zealand who extract plastics from the ocean, recycle it.
Wow.
And so even though plastic is bad, but we are trying to make it cleaner. So the idea is people who do have the bags do recycle properly or reuse them properly.
I was going to say, especially being like a Ziploc bag, you can reuse them. I love them. I'm always reusing mine.
Absolutely.
Yeah, for me, I'm always reusing it till I stab a hole in them.
Yeah, that's it.
Yes.
No, but I love that because even when I was in there recently, I think when I purchased the big purchase that I made of late, when I bought my skull, I was trying to sit him up on here, but he kept sliding.
didn't want to make
sit up today. I'm like, oh, okay, he doesn't want to be on camera. That's okay.
No, didn't want to make his first appearance.
Nobody wants.
That's right.
But even that, when Brandon was actually packaging him up, he's like, oh, so. He's like, I don't want to use too much packaging. He goes, but are you okay if I just package the skull? I said, yeah, just do what you need to for the breakable bits. But he's like, oh, now the bags aren't going to be big enough. I said, whatever you have that can be reused or repurposed is fine. He's like, okay, cool. So he actually gave me a delivery box that you guys had a recent delivery and he put it all in there. Yeah. So at least I knew that it was like, again, you didn't just come up with a massive cardboard box that you made from nothing. And he said like, oh, just ignore all the labels and stuff. I'm like, oh, you're fine. It's the job. I'm taking it home and then it's going to be cut up and put into my recycling bin. So you're all good.
So fine.
So even just that, like it's like not a lot of businesses will do that because they're like, oh, it's all about image and about branding and whatever else. But you're like, oh, look, is it okay if we use this? Because it's better to reuse than to.
Yeah. Which is amazing.
Nothing. It's so good.
It is. Good. It's so good. And like you said, it's something that probably should be a lot more intertwined with witchcraft and people who identify as a witch, because we are so intrinsically connected to nature and to the world around us, but it's often something that's really forgotten about, is just where things are coming from, what packaging and things like that we're using, so that we're not impacting as much as we have been, I guess.
Yeah, when we first started off, like back in 2010, it wasn't really a thing with witches.
Yeah.
A lot more businesses are jumping on the bandwagon now, which is fantastic.
Yeah.
So I'm really happy with how the community as a whole is sort of moving forward and realizing their impact.
Yeah, that's awesome. So then I guess from here, we've talked about your past. We've talked about where you're at now. What's the future of Elfhame or the Alchemy Bar, or where are we going with all of this? Is there any bigger plans?
Just world domination.
Perhaps some franchises in Adelaide.
Oh, what, you want to run them?
For you, Vicky.
Oh yes. Oh yeah. I'll work there. Talking about Alchemy Bar.
I don't know. I have a definite plan of where I'm going, and I will definitely get there. It's just a matter of when I will be telling people about what's going to be happening.
Yeah, that's cool.
So when we first opened up, we had, if anybody has ever been to the store, we had like a petition wall that had a little room at the back which when it was first made was not very soundproof at all. So that was going to be workshops and readings, and then being not soundproof, that turned into a big room full of boxes and storage, and lots of candle making. Now, start of last year, we had that wall brought all the way to the roof. The roof that was going across was taken off, so we've got 2 really high ceiling rooms now. So readings are really kicking off. That's probably where it's currently sitting at, and just really just growing from there.
That's so awesome.
That's awesome. Because you do, don't you? Because you have readings there, and also do like spell consultations and things like that as well, as all the
exciting things that are in the work.
Yeah.
I can't. I really.
It's okay.
Not just yet.
Not yet.
It's okay.
Well, then at least everybody now knows you have to keep an ear out and find out what's happening. There's new stuff.
And just randomly pop in. Just everyone should just randomly pop in like I
do. Definitely. And once this board is bloody open, I'll be open.
No, that I'm actually, it's been so annoying, and I can understand from the shop's front as well, like with the Alchemy Bar, because I know you had a date planned, and then we had to move the date, and then now it's like postponed indefinitely. It's just But
a good thing, I would tell you one thing though about the future. So if you don't know, the Alchemy Bar was supposed to be on a Saturday night for a couple of days.
Yeah, because at one stage we were thinking I could even come over and we could do the whole thing, and then boom, lockdown. I'm like,
We had like food and drinks and music and stuff all booked in. We went to do little mini tarot readings for everybody. We had a product that everybody's going to put their intention into, and then everybody gets to take a little bit of that product home, and then obviously mixing everything up if they wanted it. And then the first restrictions came in where we weren't allowed to have gatherings. So that night we had just over 100 people say that they were going to come, which is like unbelievably crazy and phenomenal. So couldn't have that. So then we changed it to a Saturday and a Sunday over the 2 days. And then we got told, I think it was a Thursday night, that
nothing at all.
So instead of having a launch, it's just going to be available for people when we do open up. That we missed our 10th year birthday celebration last year. So once we are able to do something, we might have a bit of a launch or a party, or just something for people to come and say hi and have fun.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Well, pending no more lockdowns, Vicky, I'll just let you know when it's happening.
Yeah, just tell me when and I'll be there.
Just come stay at my place.
It might be sometime next year, but who knows? But there will definitely be a party.
Good.
And it'll be an awesome one at that.
Yeah, that's it.
Oh, who knows? Maybe we'll cut live from.
Oh yeah.
I'm just kidding.
We could do like a red carpet thing.
Oh, okay, calm down.
A carpet of candles.
Yes! Yay! Yes.
But this has been absolutely fantastic, right? Having you on the show. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule to
my pleasure.
Come and talk to us, because like whilst I know you personally, like it's just been great to kind of hear, even there's things I've learned about you that I'm like, I didn't even know that about you, and I've known you for a while now. So it's been good. So for anyone that wants to come check out, I was gonna say check Rye out, but check out Elfhame or come say hi to Rye. So you can head to elfhame.com.au, correct? .com.au. So elfhame.com.au. Otherwise, if you're ever up in the Dandenong Ranges, or if you want to go up there, trust me, you can't miss it. You just have to head up into the Dandenongs, and you're just behind, what's that pie shop called?
Pie in the Sky.
Yeah, Pie in the Sky. So if you look
for that car park, we're right there.
Yeah, literally, you can't miss it. When you go turn at the pie shop, park in the back car park, and you'll see it from a mile away. It's usually where everyone's waiting for their pies, at the back of the pie shop. So just follow the pies, and then you see them in the corner, and it's amazing.
Yay.
But other than that,
thank you so much. It's been so great to talk to you.
Thanks for having me.
Very welcome. We'll have to have you back again some stage in the future.
when it's party time as well.
So until next time, everyone, I hope you've enjoyed this episode. And if there's anything you want us to ask, Ryan, if you want to comment, stick a comment either above or below, wherever you've seen this post. And just let us know, and we'll make sure that Ryan answers any follow-up questions if you do have any. Cool. But we'll also stick links everywhere so that you can follow them on all social media platforms and keep in touch with them. Awesome. Thanks, everybody. We'll speak soon.
Bye. See ya.